CityWorks Expo is a collaborative, co-creative, and multidisciplinary idea exchange and festival conference that happens each fall in Roanoke, Virginia. By day, attendees are immersed in thought-provoking presentations, riveting performances, and engaging dialogue. By night, the conference continues with after-hours networking opportunities during street festivals, parties, and musical events. To learn more about Expo, visit cityworksexpo.com. Expo 2014 was made possible by these fine sponsors.
Good morning. How good is Agora? You are talking about involvement, and I just pop up on stage for you to throw things at me. So the economics of human potential. Are we creating a society for the future? What a topic for a Saturday morning. Let's try to wake you up. So maximizing human potential combines cognitive skills like attention, logic, reasoning, with character skills, integrity, teamwork. Are we creating a society for the future? Well, tomorrow's built with early childhood development. What exactly is early childhood development? Well, what we've found is that some of the best projects focus on disadvantaged families. They start at birth, they integrate health and nutrition. But most importantly, they develop cognitive and character skills, not just your SOLs. I guess I'm part of state government, so I'm responsible for part of that. Sorry. So cognitive development. The key here is that skills beget skills. So this interesting graph on a Saturday morning shows that at about 10 or 12 months of age, there are twice as many brain synapses that there will be later on at about 70 years of age. So not only is there twice as much roadmap in the brain, but actually a child at that age, their brain moves about 20 times faster than our brain. So I interrupt all this for a public service announcement. Please make sure that your shopping cart doesn't look like this. These are my children. And in fact, they're my guinea pigs. My wife and I are very involved. We even started before birth. We did a lot of the prenatal work, letting them listen to a variety of music and making sure that mommy was very, very happy. That's important regardless. And it's just wonderful to see some of the outcomes now. My oldest is 4.5, and then my middle girl is 3.5. And any of you that have baby girls know that they're already smarter than you. So what we saw in this large project, which I'm going to talk about here in a moment, the Abecedarian project, which spanned 40 plus years, is that when we intervened early, this is 12 months, 3 months, up to 54 months, so 4.5. When we intervened early in life, we saw a marked increase in IQ. The average was 101 versus 91. So not only that, but we see that pre-K and early childhood interventions is the gift that keeps on giving. If you notice just the first one in particular, IQ's over 90, 67% versus 28%. Skills beget skills. Now here's the maybe more provocative part of what I'm going to talk about. Higher education and early childhood. Now those of you that are in higher education, maybe you want to turn away, maybe you might not like me after this. But here's a snapshot of higher education, here in the United States. The first column, don't worry about all these numbers, but in the first column it says what we spend as a percentage of GDP. If you notice, the United States, way down here, is at 2.6% of our GDP, which is one of the highest in the world. But in the last column, they have weighted post-secondary efficiency. So how efficient is our actual higher education model? And as you notice, we are near the bottom. Early childhood spending now, instead of being one of the leaders in spending, we are 25th in the world. And after what we've just learned about with regards to IQ and skills beget skills, making smarter people, we should be thinking about a new paradigm. Instead of just a focus on higher education, which is very important, by the way, we should be prioritizing earlier in life. It's difficult to do that because the kids can't speak, right? We have to be the voice for the children. Something is clearly counterintuitive about our model. We have to shift the paradigm. Character skills. So there are a variety of competencies that you may, or for some of us, we may not acquire over time. And here are some of them. But notice at the base of this, personal effectiveness competencies, which are basically character competencies, integrity, professionalism, initiative. That is the base with which all other competencies are built upon. You know, certainly you come across a whole variety of people that may be super smart, but maybe awkward in a room, may be difficult to speak with, may have a variety of other challenges. But those character traits that we have are the traits with which all of our other competencies are built on. All right, so what do you care about? What do you all care about? Anybody want to throw out some things? What issues are important to you? Good. Neighborhood development. Preventative health. Open internet. Local food, that's a good one. So, as you can see in this recent map, there are a variety of issues that are really at the forefront of people's minds. I did want to introduce somebody to give some credibility to some of what I'm talking about today. His name is Dr. Jim Heckman. He's a Nobel laureate, and he has really taken all of the data, he's an economist, and made the business case for why we need to be thinking about early childhood development. I just wanted to play a very quick video that talked about some of his thoughts.
Everything we know in economics says the return on investment in people, especially very young people, very, very high. Right now, a lot of economists don't have a clue of what's going on. I mean, a lot of economists, and probably me included. But when we start thinking about how to get fixes to get the economy started again, we have to be a little more careful than we've been in the past. We have a big emphasis now on potholes, infrastructure it's called. The new director of OMB, Peter Orszag, has actually written a definitive study of what the economic rate of return is to potholes. And he found that they're pretty low, actually. What I learned and became so important was that investing in people was as important as buildings or structures or roads, although those are important too. There are many projects out there, but few have the rate of return of early childhood investments, offering 10% annual rate of return. So for the same dollars, you can actually invest by training teachers and training children. But what comes out of it is a reduction in crime, the promotion of schooling, the fact that we're going to get a more skilled workforce in the future. There are very, very few government programs that have any return close to this. These rates of return calculations have not entered American political life to the extent they need to. This is not just speculation. This is not, I represent no lobby group. It's a piece of analytical work. Early childhood programs is one of the highest returns that we have on the docket right now available to make in American society. So it's foolish not to use it.
So as you can see, a lot of issues tie back to early childhood development. And oh, by the way, I stole my title from Jim Heckman, The Economics of Human Potential. Got to go to somebody much smarter than me for that one. The Abcendiarian Project results. So it's not just theory. It started in 1971. We were very, very lucky. Does anyone know Dr. Craig Ramey from Virginia Tech? All right, great. So Dr. Ramey and many others started this project, the Abcendiarian Project, back in 1971, and they started studying cohorts of students and a variety of interventions. And what they found was pretty neat. And now we have great longitudinal data that shows us what happens when we actually intervene in these children's lives very early, as opposed to just talking about theory. And here's what we found. Here's what they found, when we start early, use quality-based programming, and that's evidence-based, we have higher IQs, lower transfers to special education. In health, with proper nutrition, vaccinations, and checkup, we have a reduction in long-term chronic diseases. So mind you, these are the interventions that happen mostly before the age of 5. We found that later in life, when these individuals are 40 years of age, they have lower blood pressure, improved cholesterol, and they live healthier lifestyles. Now, that's education and health, but one thing that's very important to me, if you've heard some of the things that I talk about, is income, lifetime earnings potential, and reducing inequality. This is very interesting what they found. So not only did we improve cognitive skills and the character skills, which are socio-emotional, we also saw a sizable increase in income and also a decrease in inequalities. So, I just wanted to see how big this shark would be when we put him on the big screen. Just to make sure you guys are awake on Saturday morning. Now comes the difficult part, building a better society 101. So there's anyone familiar with AQAL? Okay, so AQAL was taught to me by a homeless man. And it talks about all quadrants at all levels. And this is a much easier version to look at. And what it's talking about in the upper left-hand quadrant is I, so what I think. In the upper right hand is how I act. Lower left hand is culture, so what we believe, our relationships. And then in this lower right hand are the social systems, so laws and other social systems. And what this is inferring to is the evolution as a human race. If we come back to this, which I know is a little bit difficult to read, but it shows that on different levels, how we think, how we act, how we interact with one another can and has evolved over time. Certainly, we're not the same society we were a couple thousand years ago. So we can postulate from that maybe even 100 years from now, we will be a different society. So the question is what do we need to be doing to catalyze the advancement of our society? And right here, we realize that building a better society is tough. But I believe, you remember I and how I believe citizenry, culture, I believe that it starts with the I in the upper left-hand quadrant. So creating a better citizenry is how we actually create a better society. So piecing all of this together. These are, again, shameless pictures of my children. Don't let your children turn out to be like this. We were in Gatlinburg, and we're taking one of these old-timey Western pictures, and my daughter, there's a playing card on the table, and she picks up the playing card, and she starts eating it. So, early childhood development impacts how smart we are. I'm very proud of my children, by the way. So if we want better citizens, better neighbors, better communities, better politicians, of course, I want better voters. Think about that. Better voters. Then we really realize it starts at early childhood development. Sometimes when we're watching the news and we're like, man, if you're on the far left, you're like, oh my God, what are those far right people talking about? If you're on the far right, those crazy liberals are trying to ruin America. Well, let's focus on objectivity, reason, and logic. If we build a society that's around that reason and logic, then maybe we'll have more engaged citizens and hopefully more engaged voters. So what to do? Well, we need to prioritize early childhood development, educate and lobby. So you can come lobby me in Richmond anytime. But we also need to find and invest in local solutions. So for example, we're working on one local solution. I just chose Greenvale, but there are many others, Northwest Childhood Development Center. And I did a lot of research trying to figure out what's the problem here in Roanoke. We have a fiscal cliff with our poor in America. So, when you get to a certain income level, which is even below $2,000 a month for a household, everything goes away. All of our support structure goes away mostly. And so what we found is if we engage the business and faith community to sponsor slots at a center, those slots are for families. The families take classes, parenting, nutrition, financial literacy. The center has to agree to offer quality programming. So here's a key distinction between quality early childhood development and daycare. That's very important. And the center also agrees to take some business consultation to ensure that they're running a well-run business. And so we go to businesses that are worried about workforce development. Well, I have a bookend program, right? So I say the bookend of secondary and primary education is workforce development, but the other side is early childhood development. Let's talk about the workers of today, but also the workers of tomorrow as well. And so if you're really invested in this community, then let's sponsor these families that are committed. Why? Because as their incomes grow, it becomes almost financially impossible, to be able to afford daycare. If I'm making $2,000 a month gross as a family, then I'm maybe making, maybe $1,800 net, and one infant will cost me at least $800 a month. So that doesn't make sense. At Greenvale, we've got a few sliding scale slots that help people climb that economic ladder. So that's just an example of the local innovation that you saw on one of those very first slides that Dr. Heckman was talking about. So creating a society for tomorrow begins with investing in our youngest. Some takeaways: early childhood development raises incomes and reduces inequalities, improves cognitive, but most importantly, character skills, should be prioritized, in my opinion, before higher education, includes health and nutrition, builds a better society, and it should always start at birth. Thank you.